Hi again, everybody. This is Dave Stevens for the Disability Channel, and you only get those Michael Jordan moments in life one time, and I am with one of the greatest legendary broadcasters. I don't want to call you a pioneer because that would make you sound like Lewis and Clark and you're really old, but this woman paved the way, set the agenda, raised the bar as far as females in journalism. This is Leslie Visser, ladies and gentlemen. Hall of Famer Leslie Visser. Thank you.
Say it again, Dave.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer Leslie Visser. Leslie, I used to grow up as a kid, one, thinking you were just beautiful, and two, you knew sports and you could hold your own with Irv and those guys on the set. I mean, where did it come from in you to be able to get to that point when no one had ever been there before?
First of all, I want to say it's an honor that you want to speak with me because you're actually the hero in this group. But you know what it was? I just loved sports. And you're from Connecticut, but I'm a native Bostonian. So like I knew how to move the runner over. You know, at the age of 8, I could score 6 to 4 to 3. I mean, at that time the Patriots were really nothing. You know, now they're such a gold standard,
right,
as you know. But I really just love sports the way other people love music or poetry. But for me, it was sports.
And in your day and age, especially with the sensitivity now, given the new, like you saw everything, people tried to expose themselves to you and do all kinds of crazy things because they thought women didn't belong in the locker room.
Well, my first 7 years, you know, I wrote this book that we're here today, and I talk about that, how my first 7 years that I covered the NFL, there were no provisions for equality. So people think that, it all started when I went in the locker room, but I had already covered the NFL for 7 years before. I think it was the end of the end of Roselle, the beginning of Tagliabue, where they opened the locker rooms. But yes, it was. I was never either economically or physically harassed by any of my bosses. Now, I can't say that's all true for the players, but I was privileged that nobody at the Boston Globe, where I started ever, or then CBS, or when I was on Monday Night Football at ABC, never a boss, never harassed me, but my heart breaks for those women that are. Do you think we're in like a market correction kind of now?
I wonder, I hope we're getting to a place where, you know, it's just about covering the game and it's not based on your sex or who you are, where you came from.
Or you know, if you're in the movies, or if you're, and also if you're working in the diner, I mean, it doesn't matter. Anyone who has a daughter, a sister, you know, mother, it is, I really hope now that this is some kind of force for good.
Now, you may not look at it, but I do because of just where you came from and how you did it. You know, where did you get that drive to become just as good as men? If not better.
Thank you. I think, well, the title of my book is, I hope everyone...
we need that book. Can somebody hand us that book, too, so we can promote that? You got a book handy?
Yes, I think Connie, these are my friends, Connie and Fudge. And actually, so you'll love the title. Thank you for asking.
Yes. Here it is. This is the book, right there.
And the title of it is called Sometimes You Have to Cross When It Says Don't Walk. And that came from, I was about 10 years old and we were living in Cincinnati, and in the early 60s, women only really had 3 opportunities. They were teachers, nurses, or homemakers. And my mother said to me, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, you know what, I want to be a sports writer. Which was like saying, you know, I want to be on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, everybody's picturing Felix Unger as that kind of a sports writer type thing. You're not Felix Unger.
Thank you, Sandra Day O'Connor, right? She had that dream too. So anyway, my mother, instead of saying, oh, forget it, she said to me, that's great. Sometimes you have to cross when it says don't walk.
Now, if you have a mantle and you're putting up like the top 1 or 2 Leslie Visser broadcasting moments, if I ask you that question, what comes to your mind just immediately?
Well, right here in Minnesota. I was the only woman ever to present the Lombardi Trophy, and it was when the Redskins won here when they beat Buffalo. And I mean, you'll get this, right? Because that was 25 years ago. So we're in the production meeting. You know how huge they are. If you put on a Super Bowl, it goes around the world. It's huge. It's the biggest thing your network can do. And I have been here plenty to do the World Series with the Twins, and so we're in the production meeting, and they say, okay, now we're getting to the post game, and I mean, there's Terry Bradshaw and Brent Musburger and people who do this all the time, and the producer, the great Ted Shaker, said, and Leslie's going to handle the post game presentation, and we all did that, including me.
What?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? So it was an enormous moment. The other enormous moment for me was CBS sent me to the fall of the Berlin Wall, which I also write about in here because really it was the story of the century, and I just had a little piece of it. Of course, Walter Cronkite,
Right.
most of it. But do you remember Katarina Witt?
Yes.
So my little slice was how will sports change, and to see those people come through the Brandenburg Gate, like, we should never take freedom for granted.
And of course, it relaunched David Hasselhoff's career, right?
Are you a veteran?
No, I was.
Because it was so meaningful, I think, to anyone who's been a veteran that, we know freedom isn't free.
Well, I wonder, and the fans wonder, now that you've hit 40 and you're 40 years old and continuing your career. Wink, wink.
No, 64.
No, I wasn't going to give away.
No, it all goes
You
on
never-
Google.
You never give a woman's age away, right?
It lives on Google. I mean, half of
Okay.
these, look, how could I have known Feinstein for 40 years?
Well, you do a lot of speaking.
I do.
You had your talk show with the women that you guys did. I mean, what's next for Leslie?
Do you know what? I'm going to come on the Disability Channel and do interviews with you.
Well, I'm so privileged to have had just a few moments with you. As I said, I followed your career. It was amazing to watch you in the studio. We didn't have ESPN in those days, so we had you guys. We had you and Irv and Jimmy the Greek and all those guys. And it's just so wonderful that your career has come full circle, where you've been able to see a very successful run for women in a field that's predominantly has men working.
Yes, when right after I started, because at first, there weren't even ladies' rooms, which did you ever in the beginning face that dilemma? Yes, you know exactly what that was like. So then I remember the first women, we used to say, we'll really have made it when we all don't know each other. Because we all used to be such good friends. We'd go to each other's weddings and Christmases and marriage, anything. So now I love it that a woman can grow up and she can say, I want to be on the Supreme Court. I want to be a sports reporter. So I love that now, that a woman can say, I want to do anything.
Final question, was there a moment when you knew you made it, when maybe Joe Namath or somebody realized and respected you and really thought, hey, this chick can hold her own?
Do you know, somebody reminded me of this the other day, that I went in a restaurant and Dan Marino was in there with Don Strock, and this was 20 years ago, 25. Of course, I've known both of them really well now. Dan actually gave me a blurb for my book, and I just sort of went to wave to them, and they both stood up. I just thought, wow, that's respect right there.
That's pretty cool. Well, we're in Barnes & Noble, so of course you got to go out, get Leslie's book, read about history, read about a pioneer, I guess, if I'm going to say it. Yeah, okay. I'll go with that, right? So, Leslie Visser, thank you for joining me. One of the coolest moments I've ever had. So, for the Disability Channel, I'm Dave Stevens. I'm not going to top this one.
Thank you, Dave.